So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, wherever you are in the world. My name is Vicky Thomas and I am your host and your founder of Hit Talks Live. And I really, from the bottom of my heart, would like to welcome every single person that's here in the Zoom room and every single person that is watching the replay. And I am so excited because today is actually a special edition episode. And I love the way the special edition episodes have actually been created. Now, if you don't know anything about Hit Talks, or if you're new to Hit Talks, again, I truly welcome you. Hit Talks is the new talk show which is built around the power of 8. So it is a concept where we bring together 8 speakers speaking for 8 minutes from 8 different perspectives. That's 4 women, 4 men. And 8 is balance, it's unity, it's polarity, it's infinity, it's yin, it's yang. And it's just been magical when we bring the energies together, and we bring the energies together on the pure intention of actually delivering you a message, delivering you multiple messages of hope, inspiration and transformation from the heart. There is no selling, there is no positioning. It is purely a platform where we can share love from our soul, where we can share hope, inspiration and transformation, hence the Hit Talks. And then the creation was just magical. It was going episode after episode after episode. And then the download was, Vicky, this is even bigger than you've anticipated. You know, I'm just a messenger here. And then it was the message that special editions, you need to bring together, or you have the choice. Sorry, we don't need to do anything, but we have the choice to bring together amazing relationships and bring together those to do special editions. And when this concept was delivered to me, there was only 3 people that I could think of from my soul at the first time who I wanted to actually take over my baby, in a way, take over my baby to actually, turn it into their own edition. And Philip Sykes was obviously one of those people, otherwise we wouldn't be here now. And British School of Etiquette and what Philip does, I have to say, is again not just something that has been curated. It's a download, it's a mission, it's a passion. But Phil himself, he is just one of these people that I find is soulful, with the intention of really making a difference in the world. Now, we've known each other for about 4 years and been very, very close for about 4 years, not just chatting about business and husband and wives and children's and dogs and the rest of the things, but how we can come together and try and make a difference in the world, try and make an impact, because it's a ripple effect. So I am really humbled. I'm really excited to pass Hit Talks across to your special edition host for this evening. And that is Mr. Philip Sykes of the British School of Etiquette. So my dear friend, you now have the floor.
Thank you very much for such a beautiful introduction. It really is a huge honor to really have this opportunity to connect with people. And Vicky made something really clear in her introduction. The British School of Etiquette was very much founded on bringing people together, bringing cultures together, and making a difference in this world, learning from one another and taking the good from each other's cultures and implementing that into our lives. And really, at the end of the day, I want to look at that there's no race. There's only one race, and that's the human race. And people may look at the British School of Etiquette, oh, it's synonymous with British etiquette and blah, 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 blah. Well, I can well assure you that British etiquette, we need it just as much here in the UK as we do globally. It's not British etiquette. This is about engaging with people. These are the guiding principles of life. They are like the traffic lights in life, so that we don't bump into each other. And Vicky brought up something which really, I've got goosebumps sharing this with you, but she brought up something about, we all have an opportunity, and we all have a purpose in this world. And I truly believe that, it's something that whether we realize that earlier on in our lives or later on in our lives, there is a reason why we are here. And I was challenged a while back. Someone said, what is your why, Philip? What is your purpose? And with lots of sort of direction and guidance from various coaches and, a lot of people throwing some thoughts at me and curveballs at me and giving me this sort of headache and what the heck, how do I write this down? I came up with the following, and I would really love to share it with all of you before I have the opportunity to introduce the first guest of this evening. But I wrote down the following: the purpose of my life is to be alive and joyful, to be present with energy and passion, to embrace and appreciate those close to me, to learn and grow and work with people so that I can inspire and help them to live a fuller life, to love more abundantly, and to make a greater difference in this world now and forever. And I truly believe that we have a duty to help the youth of today, for them to hand the baton to their children, and that baton gets passed down, because we're in a ferociously fast world. We're not going to bring any negativity into this, but we all know where we are in this world right now, and we really need to get out there and give people that incredible hope, inspiration, and transformation. And one of the most beautiful things, the Brazilians have a great saying and expression, and that is, hope is the last thing to die. So I just wanted to start the evening off with that with all of you. And I'd love now to take this opportunity to hand this, the baton, as let's call it a baton this evening. I really, really want to share this with you in a woman who I've had the opportunity to engage with over the last year and a bit, someone who came into my life wondering what the British School of Etiquette was all about, and coming from a very corporate world where she really had to sort of, I would imagine, every now and then put her boxing gloves on. She engaged on our Train the Trainer program in the UK just over a year ago, and we formed an incredible, strong trust, bond, and friendship. This is an amazing woman who told me that no matter the time of day in Bermuda, you say good morning. So if it's midnight, if it's 1 o'clock in the afternoon, if it's 4 in the afternoon, you still say good morning. And I know it's afternoon in Bermuda right now, and I'm saying good morning to you. Amazing, Loreen. I'm going to hand over to you. So the 8 minutes now are all over to you.
Thank you, Philip. Maya Angelou says, people may forget what you say, people may forget what you did, but they will never forget how you make them feel. I met Philip about a year ago, and I remember how he made me feel when I was in his presence. As I shared with him about my dreams for Bermuda, in fact, my dreams for the world, and why I believe that etiquette training would provide me with the skill sets that I needed to accomplish that, he got my big picture and he understood my vision. Hi, everyone. My name is Loreen Phillips, and I'm the founder of Clarendon Wallace. It's a corporate coaching and leadership consulting firm that I started 7 years ago. And about 3 or 4 weeks before the COVID lockdown, I decided to work full time for Clarendon Wallace. Yep, I was a part of that entire shift. Clarendon is the name of the parish that I was born in Jamaica, and Wallace is my mother's maiden name. I have a favorite show that I love to watch, and it's an American show called NCIS. And the main character in that show is Gibbs. And Gibbs have rules for his teams. And he used these rules to teach his team how to set a standard and how to perform, and really how to have an overarching way of showing up in their life and in their workspace. And it's the Gibbs rules. So I thought today what I will do is I will share with you Loreen's rules. Okay, so we're going to begin. Rule number 1, never let a good crisis go to waste. Crisis, whether they are large or whether they are big changes, are simply just that. They are a chance for you to create new opportunities, to create new adventures, to self-reflect, and to recalibrate your life so that it reflects the things that truly, truly matter to you. It opens yourself up to new possibilities. Life is happening, so what is your part in it? Do not be on the sidelines of your very own life. Get in the ring. You have what you need, and what you don't have as yet, you can learn. Rule number 2, develop a growth mindset. You are not fixed. You are constantly evolving and you are constantly growing. Keep up with where you're at and make sure you're creating a space to check in on what are those things that are important to you. Have those things changed? What are your top 3 values? Is the way that you're living, is it aligning with your values? And when was the last time you took an inventory of your life? Is it still working for you? Is your life serving you? Is your work serving you? Or are you serving your work? Or are you serving your life? There's a big difference. Now start making those changes. Rule number 3. Be the type of person that you want to meet. Be nice to everyone and not only to those that you are trying to impress. 95% of the people that are in my life currently are all new. Yes, I have developed those relationships over the last year since I returned from London back to Bermuda. They are perfect for this journey and they are perfect for this chapter of my life. From my smart and sassy lawyer to my editor for my content, my clients, my business partners, and the people and businesses that I collaborate with. I would never have picked them out of a lineup. I met them all through what we call weak ties. You know, friend of a friend. Surround yourself with the right people and make sure that your connections are diverse. Rule number 4, don't be a dreamer, but dream big. Then go do your homework, go do your research, set your goals and write it down. That's what I did. About 7 years ago, I got on a BA flight from Bermuda to London, and I went to check out this coaching taster weekend. And about 10 minutes into the training session, I realized this is it. This is what I want to do. I don't know when it will be, but I will make sure that I am prepared. And that started my journey in this wonderful world called coaching. That's when I discovered the power of coaching, a wonderful opportunity to empower others to move their lives forward and to own their space. So I rearranged my life and I created the space that was necessary to make this happen. Dream big, but don't be a dreamer. Oh, and keep your head up so you can see all the opportunities that are coming around. Don't keep your head down like that worker bee. You just might miss it. Rule number 5, ask for what you want. Believe in your ability to succeed, whatever success means to you. It impacts the way you think, it impacts how you act, and it also impacts how you feel about your place in this world. I'm talking about self-efficacy. The stronger this is the more resilient you become. You start to see challenges as just problems to solve. Your commitment level is stronger so that you can take that role that you never have done before because you know that you have the ability to learn and to perform that job well. I did that 3 times in my career and it worked out just fine. High efficacy gives you optimism, gives you confidence in your abilities, even when things are tough. In fact, you will double down to make the efforts that are necessary to find new ways to overcome those obstacles. You get grit and you get resilience. I hope you're keeping up. Rule number 6, if something is not working, just stop. Make the change that you need to make. There is no room for failure, just learning how to do things differently so that the next time you make a different set of decisions. Life is really just a series of trials and errors. When life sideswipes you, what steadies you? Rule number 7, my faith. My faith is my anchor. It is my resolve. It is the truest part of who I really am. I always lead with that part of me. It guides my decisions and my positions for navigating through life. And it's all that life has to bring. My faith gives me direction and purpose. Rule number 8, health is wealth. So minimize stress. Keep moving. Right now, my favorite playlist as I'm walking is all of Whitney Houston songs. Yes, I am back in the 90s. Improve your thought life. I wish I knew this earlier. Rule number 9, parenting. I had to pause on that a little bit. I'm a mother of 3 young men. Parenting is really a classic role of trial and error. And listen, apologize if you mess up. Speak the truth with lots and lots of unconditional love. Let your children know that you love them in spite of. And even as we as parents bumble and tumble through the technology, through TikTok and whatever the lingo is, parents, you got this. Finally, rule number 10, tell your story, but tell it only to those who deserve to hear it. So you can impart your wisdom, you can help others read the tea leaves in their lives so that they can make better decisions as a result. Thank you.
Wow, super, Lorraine. Sure, thank you. And I'm sure there are quite a few other additions that you could put on the end there as well, but those 10 are amazing. And I really hope that people have got pen and paper at hand. I certainly have. And I'm just writing down some of the things you shared there. And I do, one of the things that I know you and I have had many discussions, but let's surround ourselves with amazing people, people who inspire you, people who just give you that let's get rid of the negative, the naysayers, get rid of people because they don't deserve a space in your life. And one other thing that you really put there, which was beautiful, is, there's that incredible analogy and story by Charles Edison, the gentleman who created this, what we have today is the light bulb. And he never once put anything down to failure. It was extraordinary. I think he attempted well over 10,000 times. And he never once said, I failed. He said, I learned how to make, boom. And he moved forward with absolutely everything. So I thank you so much for your guidance, and thank you for being the first person to engage with this incredible audience. So my thanks, and good morning. So thank you so much, Lorraine. It's a real pleasure, really. Wow, okay, the next person that I would love to invite to address you and engage with you is someone I've known pretty much most of my life, give or take. We were at rival junior schools together. I went to a much better school in the younger days, but we evened that out, going to the same school and going through high school together. We've been on many ventures together. We've been on a few vacations with a bunch of people together. We've supported one another through thick and thin over times in the past. And yeah, it's a very dear, wonderful friend of mine by the name of Charles Perry. He's definitely got a mindset which is very cross between huge growth, but when Charlie gets the bit between his teeth, he can also stick to his guns, which I just love that about him. He's incredibly dynamic and again has had an incredible journey in his career path. He's done a lot of things, and he's traveled the world. He's incredibly well educated, and he's held some amazing positions, and a lot of what Charlie often does, I think, goes under the radar, but he's a big voice, and he's an incredible friend to those who know him and to those who have had the privilege of walking on the path next to Charlie. And I just hand over to you now, Charles.
Thank you so much, Philip. Really kind words, and it's wonderful that you and Vicky have assembled such an amazing group of people and the audience that's joined us tonight. And Lorraine, wonderful job. You said something that's really immediately stuck with me, which is be the type of person you want to meet. I really love that, and I will take that with me. So my why is around sustainability and climate change. And when Philip and Vicky asked me to speak on hope, inspiration, and transformation, I started thinking about 4 things that I'd like to share with you. So the first one is about listening to leaders with values. The second is answering the call once you hear it. The third is finding your voice. And the fourth is learning how to be of service to others. So as Philip said, we grew up in South Africa. There are several other people tonight that also hail from there. And I was very aware at a young age that I was hugely fortunate. I was very privileged. I had a wonderful life, wonderful family. Parents took really amazing care of me, and I didn't want for anything. But I also realized that I was surrounded by millions of people. I mean, the majority of the people had very little, and they were also of a different color to me and my friends and our wonderful, comfortable life. And included in not having very much at all was they didn't have the vote, which was obviously a key thing. And the apartheid South African government that we grew up with, it was quite foreign to a lot of us. It spoke in a different language. It was people that we wouldn't normally have sort of come across, either them or their families, and they ruled in a way that was, let's say fascist, where you had to just say yes, or you were in trouble, and that included if you were white and privileged, for example, the whole conscription, going to the army for 2 years in our case. And luckily I was supported by my parents, but I refused to do that. There was no way on earth I was going to go to the army of a fascist apartheid government in South Africa as a young chap. So luckily, again, being privileged, I was able to get out of the country and we moved to live in England. Now, in England, trying to sort of, as Philip was saying, in terms of the British School of Etiquette, is trying to understand, when in Rome, when in England, how to sort of fit in and understand the culture. It became a challenge of assimilation. Now, at this time, I was looking for my let's call it a true north, my sort of, my passion. What was my role in life? And I was uncomfortable being a white South African. I didn't like that identity, and it filled me with conflict. It made me lose my self-confidence, the realization, all the horrors that had been going on in South Africa as I started to read books that had been unbanned. And I studied political science in America at an American university. And again, that led me to really delve into the horrors of the world that I came from, a lot of which I was unfamiliar with. And I decided I needed to really understand that and get into the depths of that evil. And then work out, what was I going to do and how was I going to come to terms with who I was in the world. And finishing my political science degree, I decided to go back to South Africa and get involved in the South African elections, worked for the Independent Electoral Commission, and the 94 elections was when Nelson Mandela became our president, and I was very much part of organizing those elections. Now, I had seen Nelson Mandela face to face, being 10 feet away from him, once in my life at that point in 1990 on the steps of Parliament Square in Cape Town, when he spoke to us as a free man for the first time after 27 years in jail. I'd waited all day and I was there listening to him. And what I'm getting across now is about finding and listening to leaders with values that can be a source of inspiration. So he became that for me, number one. Fast forwarding, the second person who became one of those was Mother Teresa, who I'd always heard about. Again, I wanted to meet her. So I traveled across Asia with a backpack for 6 months, and I got a role working at Premdan, which is one of her homes in Calcutta. And every single day, only for a month, not a long time, but every single day for a month, I would see her there in mass at 5 a.m. I would get to talk to her occasionally, and then I'd go and work in the home for the sick and the destitute. And that, again, that experience of being in proximity to her and learning from her and her sisters gave me great inspiration. But at the same time, I was still looking for, so what am I all about? And I was actually quite concerned that I wasn't able to do what Mother Teresa and her sisters were doing. I just felt that wasn't my calling, and I actually wasn't up to that task of that commitment to those people in Calcutta, I just thought, okay, this is amazing, but I've still got to search for my passion. So the third person was Al Gore, who I had actually briefly met at Nelson Mandela's inauguration in Pretoria when I was in charge of the American delegation who came to Mandela's inauguration. But I hadn't really spoken to him, but I knew that he was a big environmentalist, and being vice president, you know, he was making a huge difference on environmental issues in America. So I sort of sought him out, and I became the first non-American to go to Nashville, Tennessee, and do his training course, which was a week spent with him, along with 149 Americans in a room for a week, all day, and then out with Al and his wife Tipper at the time in the evenings to different, you know, rhythm and blues and country music bars. So he became a main inspiration. And the fourth person is Jonathan Porritt, who has become my mentor over 20 years. I asked him in 1997 when I had decided that my true north was sustainability and climate change, if he would be my mentor, and he has been an amazing mentor. So just moving on to then sort of what I've been doing is I'm the founder of Sustainable Future for All. We've worked in my career, I've worked with all sorts of companies on the sustainability journey, all sorts of clients as well, and individuals. And the thing that I'm most focused on at the moment is working with the UN as a client on COP26, which the British government is hosting in Glasgow next year. And it's all about climate action in a profound and meaningful way. And some of you might have seen last night the TED Talks. It was called TED Countdown, had amazing people like Christiana Figueres from Costa Rica, Prince William, and others last night talking to us. And I was involved in helping bring that together. I think my time is up, so I'm going to bring it to an end by saying, what would I like to just quickly pass on is to young people, a few things. Don't be in a hurry. Look for your North Star, as I said, your true north. And if you want to look into that a bit more, look up Polaris, which I love the whole Polaris concept. Create and catch the big moments in life. Don't miss them if you can. And then use them as a source of energy to sustain you, especially in the bleak times. And finally, follow your passion and believe that you can do anything. Thank you.
Charlie, thank you so much for that. And I know you really do have so much to share, and I really appreciate, you know, for me, about values. I think this is one of the most core things that we need to find. What is, you know, what are our values? Who do we value, and who can we connect with and engage with, and find your voice. And that's something I know you've not been afraid to do. You really have stuck your neck out on numerous occasions. Sometimes you've had to duck. I know, because someone's taken a shot at you, so to speak, but you really have been an incredible inspiration. And really something else that really sticks out for me, Charlie, is that you are incredibly solid and you stick to your guns. And I don't want to go down the so-called political rabbit hole, but oh my hat, you were always a driver of, and a huge support of Nelson Mandela and his parliament. And I know there are many stories that you could share. And the final thing that really struck a chord there is service to others. What can we do for other people? And one of the things we teach at the British School of Etiquette is really have a what can I do for you attitude, because I truly believe that is what life is all about. How can I support you? How can I help you? And always give and never remember, and always receive and never forget. So thank you, Charlie. It really is a huge privilege, and thank you for also being such an instrumental person in my life on every level. Another, on that note, an instrumental person in my life, all of them are, all of the speakers are, and many of the guests. Nirali Shah, all the way from India. Here's a woman who seriously stepped out of her comfort zone just over a year ago and came over to London to engage on our Train the Trainer program. And there was someone there who beautifully spoken, incredible energy, and at times a little bit nervous. And when Nirali left the Train the Trainer off the back of the 6 days that she was on the program for, it was like seeing an orchid flower that had been positioned so beautifully on the windowsill, the right amount of sunlight, the right amount of water, and this orchid flower just started to come into blossom. It was unbelievable. And off the back of that, Nirali went off back to India and she said, I'm going to set up the British School of Etiquette in India. And I said, Nirali, it would be an honor and a pleasure. And she was true to her word. As we all know in life, everyone, talk is cheap. It's where we put action. And an analogy we use a lot, and I share with all our students, is that if I stand on the top of the hill with my mouth open, do you think a duck is going to fly into my mouth? Unfortunately not. Never, ever, ever. So this is exactly what Nirali did. She went back to India and she started setting the wheels in motion. And she kept in touch on a regular basis. I'm still committed. And boom, earlier this year, Nirali engaged as the British School of Etiquette India partner, and she has been working tirelessly and making a huge, huge impact in India, getting the message across to the millions and millions of Indian people. And I was actually due to be there as we speak to launch our first Indian Train the Trainer course over in her home city. And without further ado, I'd love to hand over to Nirali. And I thank you, Nirali, from the bottom of my heart. I thank you for coming into my life and into many people's lives that I know that we've all connected with. So thank you so much. And over to you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Nirali Shah, and I am the British School of Etiquette India CEO. Let me start my introduction with a quote. You don't become what you want to, you become what you believe. I would like to share a story with you which has changed me. You fly and you go up at 14,000 feet. Someone opens the door and you go 1, 2, 3, and you fall out of an airplane. In 1 second, you realize that you are experiencing the most blissful experience of your life. You are flying. You realize that the point of maximum danger is the point of minimum fear. It's bliss. The lesson I learned was, why was I scared in bed the night before? What did I need to be fear of? Fear of what? Everything is up to stepping out. There is no reason to be scared. It only ruins your day. God has placed most of the best things in life on the other side of terror. Let me share a story with you on the same lines. There was a king one day who received a very special gift. 2 beautiful, magnificent falcons. He handed over the falcons to a trainer who was an expert in training falcons. After a couple of months, the trainer informed the king that one of the falcons was doing extremely well, flying magnificently, soaring the heights of the sky. But the other falcon was just not moving from the branch of the tree from the very day he started training. The king brought healers from around the world to train the falcon to fly. But the falcon would just not fly. Trying everything, the frustrated king said to his ministers, maybe we need someone who is familiar with nature, someone who understands animals and birds. I think this is the only way we can solve this problem. Go and look for a man in the countryside and assign this task to him. The next morning, the king was thrilled to see the second falcon soaring over the palace garden. Delighted, he called his minister and asked him to get the doer of this miracle to him. The minister brought a simple farmer to the king. The king asked the farmer, what have you done to make this falcon fly? The farmer replied, it was extremely simple, Your Royal Majesty. I simply cut the branch of the tree where the falcon was sitting. Ladies and gentlemen, we all are created to fly, to live by the incredible potential that we have been invested with. But often We sit on our branches, clinging to the familiar, remaining stuck in our comfort zone, not willing to venture out, not willing to take the risk. The possibilities are endless, but for most of us, they remain undiscovered because we continue to remain in our comfort zone. So, for most of us, our life is mediocre instead of being thrilling, fulfilling, and exciting. What is the branch that is holding you back from flying high? What is the fear that is stopping you from taking the risk? What is the weakness that is inhibiting your growth? Unless we cut off the branches we are clinging on to and we free ourselves, we can never take off and achieve greater heights in our life. What are you waiting for? Cut the branch and take your flight. Thank you.
Nirali, thank you. Thank you so much. I love that. And I know it's incredibly late for you over in India. I love what you shared, and it's a beautiful story. And really, what really springs to mind is old habits will not bring new results. You've got to take that chance. And, you know, there's a lot of us out there, fear holds us back. And I want to bring up, maybe you call it a cliche, but that word fear is false evidence appearing real. It really is. What are we afraid of? And something again that I love sharing with people is that when we are weighing up what we need to do with our lives and what risks we need to take, ask yourself 3 questions. What's the worst that can happen? And once you realize the worst that could potentially happen, then ask yourself, okay, what's the best and what's the most likely? And so I love your story there. It really is giving people that opportunity to snap that branch. And literally, it's about building your parachute on the way down. You know, all of us have it in us. We are survivors, and fear holds us back. And we really need to get rid of that word in our vocabulary and take those chances. Surround us with those amazing people, as Irene said. You know, bring the right people into our lives, and again, bring people that are better than us into our lives. So it really is. Thank you again, Nirali, for your wonderful words there, and actually huge inspiration. And I know your journey as well. It's an incredible journey. So thank you. This leads me on to a gentleman that I had an incredible opportunity to meet earlier this year. I was asked to speak at the Women in Banking conference up in Birmingham at a university up in Birmingham, not Birmingham University, I forget the actual name. And I was very fortunate to have 25 people choose to listen to what I had to share and say. And one of the people that connected with me on that particular day was Carlisle. And we got chatting, and I didn't know him from Adam at all. And I brought him up to the front of the room. He didn't know I was going to ask him to come up, and I ran through a few things with him in front of this incredible audience. And right there and then, we had this incredible trigger that we connected. And ever since, we've stayed in touch. We've bounced ideas around. We've given each other some inspiration, you know, especially through these unprecedented times. And so without further ado, I'd really love to hand over to someone who understands the power and importance of learning, and understands the power and importance of taking what he learns and what he takes on board and shares with other people. So Carlisle, welcome, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Philip. Thank you for that introduction. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Vicky, Philip, thank you so much for this opportunity. I'm truly humbled to have been invited to share the stage with you all. Now, I want to set the scene for you to understand how, you see, I'm a big movie buff, and cinema has played a large part of my creativity, the way I think, the way I see life. And it was in watching a random scene in a movie as a child, which I can't remember the name of the movie, but all I know is that in that moment, I understood exactly what my purpose in life was to be. I didn't know what a coach was. I was so young, I couldn't even articulate or describe what I saw this coach doing in this movie. But during his journey to self-actualization, I witnessed the power and the transformation in his audience lives. And I looked at it and I thought, that is exactly what I want to do. But you see, the scary thing was 5 moments later, in another random scene in the same movie, I realized exactly what it was going to cost me. And at a point, I didn't know when it was going to appear. I was going to have to sacrifice on the altar who I was at that point in time to become something different. So quite literally, I realized I was going to have to kill myself. Now, for you to truly kind of understand what all of this is about and who I am and where I've come from, I need to kind of give you a bit more context. My name is Carlisle Latier Lane, and I'm a coach. Son to Cecil, a career diplomat born in Trinidad. Son to Carmen, a business executive in publishing, politics, and education. Now, I was born in, quite fortunately, in a comfortable degree of affluence in Jamaica. And in a circumstance that I was completely unprepared for, I found myself on the precipice of poverty and almost homelessness in Africa. Now, I was so young that I didn't understand that not everyone's mother and father didn't live in the same house and that their father lived with his other family down the road. But that was my normal. At 12, my mother and I moved to Africa when she remarried, and it was one of the craziest experiences that I would never trade for anything. But you see, on arrival, we realized that 2 things were about to happen. The gentleman that my mother had married had lied about having sorted out home and accommodation and steady work. And also, we were soon to find out that the trustees that my mum had left in place to look after her interests and our assets were slowly but surely liquidating everything. So not only did we find ourselves marooned in a foreign land under circumstances that were completely misrepresented, 6 months on arrival, we were now facing financial ruin as we had no source of income and literally the wire transfers stopped coming through. Now, unbeknownst to everyone, my mother didn't realize that on the day we were leaving, I sat there and I heard her older sister saying to her, I know you're going to come back and you're going to come back with your tail between your legs, but don't worry, we'll be waiting for you. So on one faithful day at 12, that was when the moment came when I realized I was going to have to sacrifice everything that was normal to me at that point. And she looked me dead in my eyes and she said, Carlisle, we can either go back home to Jamaica and start again, or we can stay here and face the unknown. Now we all know how that story ended because we stayed and it turned out to be one of the best things that we could ever have done. Now, the next leg of this story happens in 1998. At 18, I've completely acclimatized, I'm fully settled, and my mother randomly says to me one afternoon, Carlisle, I give you a hypothetical. Stay and go to university in Nigeria and I buy you a Benz, or do you want to go to England and go to university there? And I said, well, it's a no-brainer. It's part of my career plan. I'm going to be Cecil 2.0, but better at everything. So I'm going to go to England. Little did I know, at a week's notice, my mother said to me, settled, fine, you're going to England next week. I thought it was a joke until on the day, the car turns up. Says, Carlisle, aren't you ready? I said, no, ready for what? Said, your mother is at the airport. And sure enough, I arrived there. She had my passport in hand, acceptance letter for university, school fees there and then. And she says to me, there you go, off you go and figure it all out. Not quite in those words, but I could see her fighting back the tears. And right there in the airport, I decided, okay, I've got this sussed. I'm going to go to England, I'm going to go to my father's alma mater, I'm going to become a diplomat, I'm going to study law, I'm going to get married, I'm going to have children, it's going to be fine. And in my naivete, this whole paradigm came crashing down when I realized there and then I got rejected from my father's university. And then I started to see the futility of my plan. So I started carving out my own plan, but in this, I still decided I was going to study law. 4 weeks in, £6,000 out of pocket, I had to have a difficult conversation as I realized that it was just not going to happen. So the irony of what I'm about to say is I decided to study IT, and that will soon become apparent. Much to my mother's, we finally settled everything, but then I went on to sell cars for 10 years. Now, at this point, I thought I had life completely sorted. The edginess of living in Nigeria under difficult circumstances, plus my privileged background, my confidence was through the roof. All the girls liked me, but my ignorance just led me from toxic relationship to toxic friendship as I realized just how little I knew about life and everything else. But you see, my downfall was my condition of worth, which led me to kind of think, well, this is the image I need to put out to let everyone know that I'm doing okay. Meanwhile, I was thinking, well, after all, I'm not doing that bad. I bought my first house at 24. I was married at 23. But the reality was, by 26, I was divorced. By 28, I was bankrupt. And by 30, I was trapped in a job that I absolutely hated. And that is when I kind of sat and had a deep, long, hard look at myself and realized that life isn't something where you just have a challenge and you overcome once and then you've got it all sussed. You have to go through these iterations of looking yourself dead in the eye and killing off who you are. And it's at that point that I completely shifted, completely changed gears. I started not only coaching and mentoring young adults, but in a move that would completely change me forever. That was when it all clicked in. Because when I saw the lights come on in the young adults' lives that I was working with, that was when I felt truly, truly set and sure of what I was doing. So I say all of this to say, basically, work out what you want to do. Why do you want to do it? And don't be afraid to ask for the help and support that you need as time goes on. Life has a plan for you, and each of your lives are truly unique. And just like a movie, you never know where the plot twists are going to come, and it's like a thriller. But God has a plan for you, and He has put gifts in you that are uniquely yours, and you are one of one bespoke, and you are the only one that can express those gifts. So in the words of Martin Luther King, I'm going to end with this. Take the first step in faith. You don't have to see the entire staircase, but just take the first step. I am Carla Lati, and thank you for listening.
Kalal, thank you. Beautifully spoken, really, and such an incredible message. For me, I always look at my life and I think, gee, I've had some bumps in the way and some curveballs, and I know for a fact that every single person in the world has. No one's got this red carpet. No one's born. We use that terminology, the golden spoon in the mouth. Yes, some people are born into stupendous amounts of money and things like that. It doesn't mean their road is straight and all cushy and all that sort of thing. Actually, on the contrary, it can actually mess their lives up a lot more. And it is really an incredible journey that you went through. And again, I don't know you hugely well. I know parts of your story, but you sharing some of those intricate moments of where you had to make a decision, your mum had to make a decision. And as you say, that first step, the first step of 1,000 miles, the journey is of taking that first step. Martin Luther King's words, phenomenal. And I thank you so much for your message to this incredible audience. So thank you very much. Really, really appreciate it. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, again, it's hope, inspiration, and transformation. It couldn't be a better sort of name for what everyone is about and what we are sharing. The next person that is going to be addressing you and speaking with you is a woman that came into my life about just over 3 years ago. A woman that walked through the door of the British School of Etiquette with the biggest smile I've ever seen, and these white beaming teeth and this humble approach. And oh my hat, when Marie Christine shared her story with me, I get very emotional about this. It's something that knocked me sideways, front, backwards, upside down. And there was a woman standing in front of me who could only look at the glass half full. And a lot of people in this world who get thrown curveballs, they don't know what to do. They think, why me? Why did this happen to me? Poor me. But oh no, not this person. This person, when you hear her story and her journey, her calling in life, God shining on her and her understanding what her calling and what her reason for being in this world is all about, is this incredible woman from Africa, from Rwanda, who left Rwanda through the hardest of times when Rwanda was going under the massacres by the president, prime ministers, and the parties. And Marie-Christine left this country, stepping over her relatives and people that she loved and cared for's dead bodies to lead and flee the country. Without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Marie-Christine, because this is one amazing woman who has conquered so many things, not just for herself, but for so many other people. And it's a true testament, because she has 3 children, one left on her back, crossing Africa, lands up going to the finest school in this country. Not only the finest school in this country, when I mean all the royals send their daughters and things like that, blah, 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 to. This young lady becomes the head girl of this school. She doesn't only become head girl, she gets into Cambridge University. She then goes on to Oxford University to do a postgrad. Her other 2 children who are still at school land up at the most incredible school in Switzerland. Little Rwandan kids learning to ski, learning to embrace life, who are literally heading up the top of their classes, not just academically, but also with their beautiful spiritual and social intelligence. Marie-Christine, I hand this over to you, and I thank you very much for joining us this evening.
Thank you, Philip. It's really my pleasure to be with you, and thank you for Carl and your message. It was very inspirational. It reminded me of your mother. Has reminded me what I used to be when I was carrying my daughter, whom Philip was talking about. So we, as mothers, even when things go wrong, when we don't know what to do, when there is no hope, you still find a hope in your child. That was happening to me in 1994. When she was dying of hunger, and I was in the middle of nowhere, I did not know what to give to her. Still, I was thinking, I'll do my best, I'll take risk to beg, which was not easy even to beg in a country where you're not supposed to appear. But I could see hope in my daughter's life. So my mother was an inspirational woman. When we were young, we were 12 children, and I was the youngest. She always had a song, always telling us, when you behave, you will be successful. So I remember during that period on the run, when I was crossing 4 countries on foot, and I did not have anything, how would I be successful? I was trying to behave anyway. As a refugee, you had no choice but to behave. But how would I be successful? How would my child be successful? So I was desperate. At the end, I took risk, came to the UK legally, and I ended up, I was put in an area in Kensington where I couldn't find any other refugees around. It was very tough when I was not speaking English. I did not have any other refugee friends who would give me some directions I would need. I was desperate. So I remember those words of my mother. If you behave, but how would I behave in a country I don't know? Rwanda was not a colony of Britain. I did not know much about Britain. The culture, the language, of course, I didn't. It was desperation. So I tried to teach my daughter manners of Rwanda, but we behave, but what we call virtues in Rwanda are not virtues in Britain. So that time, The internet was not very common to me. It was very hard. I was going to the library to learn manners of Britain with books. It was not enough. Nobody was mentoring me. I kept on teaching my daughter manners of Rwanda. And then she would go to school, say, oh, you don't do this here, you do that. First of all, you don't speak a language. You don't speak our language. How would you be successful? So I started asking friends, do you know any book about the British culture, the British manners that I can teach my daughter, please? So they started giving me some tips. This is how we do things. This is how we behave. But that was not enough. I wanted really to excel in it, that I wanted my daughter to excel. I knew I had lost a lot. I knew I missed a lot, but I was hoping my daughter to be successful. Indeed, that helped me a little bit. But when I had 2 other children, I wanted more. I wanted now my children who were born in England to learn from the ground, from the land they were in, and to grow like British people. So that's how I ended up at the British School of Etiquette to learn more. I really was very curious. What can I teach my children? How can this be? I had already seen that my daughter's manners, the little I could teach her, the little I could learn from the neighbors and friends now, helped her to go to that school or to be successful in her age. But then how about my 2 young ones who were born there? I wanted them to really excel. That's my motto. It was my motto. So I went there, I learned. Every time I come from the class, I come and put my children at the table. I teach them everything I learned. This is how I did. So later on, after I did the school, everyone was saying, your children behave very well, but not only that, they're very talented. So there was this school I heard about in Switzerland, one of the top schools in Europe. I said, why can't I take my children there? I believed in their manners, I believed in their attitude and also their brain. Why can't I take them there? Everyone was telling me, you can't, they can't pass. The manners there, they're very strict, they can't. I said, I trusted them, let me take them. I took them. The first thing that impressed the examiners were the manners, the attitude those children had. They passed the exam before they write anything, really. So that continued. And not only that, they got a scholarship. This is their 4th year. So from that time, I learned that good manners, behaviors can open doors for you. So later on, I found out my children, as they excel in that school, the school have asked me to be mentoring parents, to be teaching them how to teach their children to behave. And because of that, I got a kind of job as a consultant. And that's how I ended up moving to Switzerland. Now I'm a resident in Switzerland. But how could I think as a refugee that time that my daughter would be where she is now, that my young children, whom I raised up as a single mother, could be those ones that me, on that status of refugee, a despised status everywhere, could become a person who is needed, who is wanted to be a mentor of those privileged mothers. So manners can make a door, can open doors no one can open for you. So thank you very much.
Marie-Christine, thank you. And I know you really very kindly kept it not to, hopefully you wouldn't want, as I was earlier, in tears. Your story, for any of you who are interested in hearing about Marie-Christine's journey and story. She speaks on international stages now around the world. She is very inspirational in anti-terrorism and in helping refugees through her charitable organizations, and the list goes on and on. So Marie-Christine, thank you so much for being here with us, and you really have got so much, like all of us, to share and share with the world and inspire people to really, you know, take that next step. You know, it's the 11th hour when people tend to give up, and you've never given up. That's one thing for sure. So I thank you so much for being here and joining us this evening. Moving on to a gentleman and again, an incredible person that I had the privilege to go to school with. We were actually in the same house. He looks younger than I am, but he was 2 years ahead of me. A gentleman by the name of Richard Cullinan. And Richard and I have sort of moved in and out of each other's lives over the years, but more recently, in the last couple of years, we've reconnected. Actually, it's in the last 4 years that Richard and I have connected over various different ideas and thoughts. And I don't want to steal Richard's thunder. I don't need to give too much more of an introduction, but he is an incredible person who really took the bull by the horns and realized that if he didn't change his life, things would land up very, very pear-shaped. Not only that, Richard is an incredibly spiritual person. He's got very strong faith, and I know Richard has got, without me ruining his introduction and his story, he's got something very special to share with everyone. But Rich, again, you know, this, I know it's not a channel to share how much we appreciate one another and friendships, but you really mean the world to me, and I thank you from the bottom of my heart. Has been a dear friend of mine and an inspiration and a guiding light. So Rich, over to you, and I thank you for joining us this evening.
Thank you so much, Phil. Thank you. And thank you, Vicky, for this wonderful opportunity to share my story. I've been in education for the last 15 years, doing adult education, and this is very unlike a normal online learning program that I would normally deliver, because it's a very personal story. And I think for a lot of people, the journey to arrive at your purpose in life can take many twists and turns, and it can take a long time sometimes. In my case, it took really quite a long time. When I was diagnosed with adult ADHD in 2012, things changed for me. Prior to that, not knowing about my condition, I had a life where I would have extreme highs coupled with extreme lows, bouts of happiness and long periods of fairly deep depression. I suffered symptoms like 10% basically of the population in the world have this condition, attention deficit hyperactive disorder, and the sister condition, attention deficit disorder. And typically, we struggle to control our impulses. Very often, we are quick to anger. In my life, I had a heightened sense of anxiety, which stayed with me for many, many years. And, you know, I had some business successes and a lot of failures. One of the best descriptions of ADHD that was given to me once was that it's like being a Ferrari without the brakes. And the unfortunate thing is when you're a Ferrari without the brakes, you wipe out big time as well. And so my life up until I was 45 years old was smattered with good times and bad times, but never consistent times. And when I was diagnosed with attention deficit hyperactive disorder, it was like the veil was removed and I could see myself for the first time. I was able to step back, look back at my past and realize all the mistakes I'd made and the relationships that I had destroyed through being highly impulsive, quick to anger, and so on. I could see the reason for this, and I was happy about that, and I was grateful for the diagnosis. I was put onto medication It didn't work right away. In fact, it took quite a lot of trial and error to find the right medication for what is a chronic condition. I also learned through the process of trying to understand my condition that people with ADHD and ADD lack the dopamine that normal people's brains produce. So what happens with people with ADHD and ADD, they seek out activities which are very often dangerous, but give them a spike in dopamine. Or they might seek out drugs or alcohol or truant behavior to get that dopamine fix. And for me, now I'm on the right medication where I receive dopamine and the brakes have been put on the Ferrari, and I'm able to conduct my life in a fairly normal way. So that was in 2012, and unfortunately, just the medication was not good enough. Now, prior to 2012, I had sat on the psychologist's couch and done cognitive therapy for a couple of years. But apart from understanding my past, it didn't actually teach me how to behave or think or feel in the present. It in fact took a number of years for me to get to a place in October 2018, which is basically 2 years ago, where my life had returned to a place of self-destruction. My relationships were in disarray. My career was going nowhere, and I was very distracted. So I was on the medication, but I needed something else. I needed something more, to learn how to manage myself, to learn how to become conscious and self-aware, and to learn how to direct my emotions. And I decided, from my experience of many years in the teaching field, that where I taught parts of emotional intelligence, I decided to do a deep dive into emotional intelligence. And I've spent the last 2 years studying emotional intelligence, writing programs, which I've actually written for the British School of Etiquette, and I facilitate for the school. I've also in the final stages of writing a book, which is entitled Unlock Your Emotional Intelligence to Change Your Life. So I did this deep dive, and I had full-on spiritual confirmation that this was my purpose in life. Not only did I feel it deeply, and not only was I inspired mentally, but one day I was visited upon by the Holy Spirit, and very clearly I was told, this is your sacred commission. Be confident and do your work. And every time I waver, I remember that extraordinary experience, and it gives me energy, it gives me hope, and it gives me the wherewithal to continue on my journey. So learning emotional intelligence, which is self-awareness, self-control or self-management, social intelligence, and building relationships that last, and having the motivation to change. That coupled with my faith and spiritual intelligence, and indeed EQ and SQ work in parallel. I see I've only got 1 minute left, so I'm going to try and wrap it up by saying that people with ADHD, they need their medication to get the dopamine and put the brakes on the Ferrari, but they also need to practice emotional intelligence and align themselves to a belief system or faith or spiritual intelligence that can guide them. Just finally, there are some benefits to being ADHD, and they are having electric energy, being hyper-focused, and being able to use your impulses to come up with creative and innovative ideas. It's been a wonderful pleasure talking to you this evening. Thank you very much.
Richie, thank you so much. And again, as just to sum it up, you are the change. I've seen it, the transformation, and not only that, I've had the privilege of engaging with you many times a week, but not only that, again, connecting with the students that you come into contact with and the people whose lives you are changing and making such an impact with. So I know Nirali's had the privilege of connecting with you over in India, where we've run workshops for some of her students and things like that. And again, you've engaged with many students around the world. And I have to thank you for sharing your story. I know it's a personal one, but it comes from the heart and it's incredibly true. And I think this is something that all of us must never be afraid of. Doreen mentioned it earlier. We've all got a story. You need to be able to tell your story. Every single one of us, when we were growing up, our story starts from the moment we're born. And every single one of us have a story. And each one's story is very, very different. And we need to understand this. So we cannot expect our story to infect or affect someone else's story, if that makes any sense. And there's obviously a deeper dive into that. But, again, through emotional intelligence and something that Richard swears by as well, is which we introduce through the organization, is giving people the tools on how to manage certain parts of your life. And one of them is incorporating what we call the 6-second rule. Sometimes maybe we need 20 seconds, but what triggers us and how can we put that and control that? And it is incredible material that we can all take from understanding the power and the importance of emotions and emotional intelligence. So thank you very much, Rich, for coming on and sharing your journey with us. Now, all the way over to a part of the world where it's Monday morning, and to not only a dear friend of our family growing up, my sister's 9 years my junior, so I had the privilege of meeting some of her incredible friends while we were growing up. And one of her best friends in the world is this incredible young lady here, Marina Pastelaris, all the way over in Australia, who has set up quite an extraordinary organization. It is, something just in 2019 alone, they educated 1.5 million youths through their school. They are changing the face of how things are done in Australia. And, for me, it very much is something that when I heard what Marina was up to and what she was doing, and I had no idea how dynamic this young lady was. It's only in the last year that Marina and I have already reconnected. And it's through that we see that we've got so much common ground. We've got a purpose. We've got our whys all very much aligned in so many senses of the word. And today, Marina and her team of over 85 educators deliver workshops to thousands of Australians all over the world. Not just Australia. The organization's making huge waves in Australia. And it is something that, for me, it was a no-brainer to bring Marina in from all the way from Australia, despite having for her to get up at 5 o'clock this morning. And so, Marina, without further ado, I really, really would love to give you the floor. And I thank you very much from the bottom of my heart for joining us.
Thank you so much, Philip. Good morning, everybody, and good evening to wherever you are in the world. It's a real honor to be here, and it was a complete pleasure to get up so early this morning, because I always feel when you get up in the morning early, you should take that little bit of time just to think how lucky we are that we get to do another day, and that we've got another day to serve people, and we've got another day to make an incredible impact, whether it's in our community or whether it's in, if you're looking at serving more people on a greater scale. And it was beautiful listening to all of your stories this morning, and particularly Richard's story, because we do service so many young children that are struggling with ADHD and struggling with anxiety. And one of the things that we have really noticed since COVID-19 struck our planet in March was this incredible escalation in anxiety and overwhelm that everyone is feeling. And I think one of the things that COVID has done for humanity is that we have suddenly started to feel a complete loss of control. There is so much fear out there with the future, what the world looks like, job security. All of those things are things that we really are, as human beings, thinking about more than ever before. And so something that I wanted to do today was not necessarily share my story, but actually give you some tips and some tools that I'm hoping that you can utilize in your own life, whether it's for young people that you have at home, or whether you are having a day where you feel a little bit overwhelmed. We, at Beautiful Minds, we work with some incredible global experts. We're working with Dr. Bessel van der Kolk at the moment, who's the world's leading trauma expert. We are working closely with Stanford University and Harvard University. And when we get together with this global team and we talk, one of the things that we all agree is that as human beings, we really haven't learned how to just stop. And that was the one positive thing that did come out of COVID, was that we were all forced for a short period of time just to retreat into our own homes and just to have a period where we could actually just be still. And we live in such incredibly busy lives, and we don't, as human beings, know how to deal with overwhelm. And so what we tend to do as humans when we feel overwhelmed is we try and distract ourselves, which actually has a far more toxic impact on us, because we are then not sitting with what we need to sit with. We're just masking it. So we're just putting things on top of things. And what I would love to do this morning is just give you some of our favorite tools when it comes to dealing with overwhelm. And the first one that I wanted to share with you was a very simple strategy called the stop technique. And the stop technique is literally just, S is for stop, T is to take long breaths out, because something really interesting happens when you're feeling very overwhelmed. When you feel a level of anxiety coming into your world, you tend to want to breathe in. So there's this feeling of, I've got to get air into my system. And one of the most powerful things you can do when you feel overwhelmed is actually to do the opposite, and to breathe out. Take a long, deep breath out. Because as you breathe out, and I'll get you to all do it with me this morning, just breathe out for a second. Because as you breathe out, what you are then forced to do is then to automatically take a nice deep breath back in. So that's the T of stop. The O of stop is to observe your surroundings and know that you are actually safe. You're in these four walls and nothing dangerous is happening around you. And the P is to proceed. So that's my first technique when it comes to feeling a little bit overwhelmed. My second technique is called the calm palm, which I love. And we work quite closely with experts at Stanford University, and we've done this many times. So I'm going to get you to all just put your hand right in front of your face. And with your other finger, I just want you to trace all the way around your hand in absolute silence. And the reason why that is such a simple but powerful tool is that for that couple of seconds that you stop and you do that, it is mindfulness. And the only thing that you can focus on is that movement around your hand. So we've done the stop technique. We've done the hand tracing, the calm palm. My third most powerful technique is actually the ice technique, and they use this in a lot of anxiety wards around the world. And it is as simple as grabbing 2 pieces of ice from the freezer, popping 1 piece of ice there and another piece of ice there, and holding onto it really tightly. And the ice technique does 2 really powerful things. The first thing is, because it is so cold and so sore, it starts to burn. It actually disconnects the adrenals from going around your body. So you are forced to calm down. That fight or flight feeling that you get in your tummy when you're feeling overwhelmed is actually stopped dead in its tracks. So that's the first thing that it does. The second thing that the ice technique does is it lowers your body temperature, because when you're feeling overwhelmed and quite anxious, you actually start to get quite hot internally. And so the great thing about ice is when you think about it, you can locate a piece of ice almost anywhere, at a friend's home, at your home, at a supermarket, in the movies, pretty much anywhere you go, you can find a piece of ice. And if you cannot find ice, then I would suggest going to the bathroom and just splashing your face with some cold water. The other thing that we do at Beautiful Minds is we do a little technique called write and rip. And one of the things that we tend to do as human beings is we store so much anxiety up here in our minds, and we've got a million thoughts going around our head on any given day. And so when you're feeling like you're just having a really lousy day and you've got a lot going on inside of you, just sit down for 5 or 10 minutes with a journal, write down everything that is stressing you out. And once you've done it, rip it up. And the reason we rip it up is because we want to know that everything that is of a stress is onto a piece of paper, and then we've gotten rid of it. We've just discarded that energy, and it's now been put to one side. Yeah. The other thing that we work a lot with at Beautiful Minds with our young people is getting them into having daily rituals, so that every single morning when you wake up, you're waking up at the same time, and you're doing similar things that you do every single day, so that you are, we hope that these young people are going to be having a success identity out of having some amazing rituals every single morning. And it completely baffles me with life that we're taught as young children to brush our teeth morning and evening. We're taught to eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner. But no one teaches us, and school most certainly doesn't teach us, how to actually set mental health rituals for ourselves every single day. And you as a human being need to find those your own rituals, things that really resonate with you. And they can be anything from starting your day with a meditation, walking out into the garden barefooted and just actually grounding yourself at the start of the day. It could be just breathing. We don't take enough breath breaks where we actually just breathe in and breathe out. It could be using essential oils, because as soon as you smell something, again, your brain will disconnect from feeling so overwhelmed. It could be working with crystals. We use a lot of beautiful crystals at Beautiful Minds, because as soon as you hold something, you then get to actually, it feels like you've got the power within that crystal, whatever that crystal is that you choose. And so one of the things that I'd love to leave you with today, because I could talk forever on this topic, is that every single day we have a choice with how we show up. Yeah. And we get to decide what good we want to give back to the world that day and what our legacy needs to be. And we only get to have an extraordinary life if we can look after ourselves first, because we have to be strong enough first to be able to then go out and serve everyone in the world. And the best way that you can be strong and that you can start to, feed yourself really powerful messages, that you can take in really inspirational tools every single day, is if you make some time for yourself on a daily basis. And if you set these rituals every single day so that you are in control, because one of the things that we forget as human beings is that we actually are in the driving seat of our life, and we get to decide what direction we want to go in. And we're all struggling with something. For me, it's been anxiety for many, many years. So I work really heavily on myself every single day to make sure that I have the best possible day that I can have, given the fact that I may feel anxious. And for someone else, it may be something else that pops up for them. But I think as human beings, if we can get up every single day and strive to have the best possible day that we can have, and be kind to ourselves if we don't have the best day, because tomorrow is another day. So I'm hoping that one or two of these tools will inspire you to be able to set your life up with some great strategies at the start of every single day. And it's been an absolute pleasure chatting to you this morning for my 8 minutes. I think I'm up.
Marina, thank you so much. And I do actually practice some of those. Again, had the privilege of connecting with Marina on numerous occasions and talking about techniques and things like that, and they do work. They absolutely do work. Something that Marina shared, one of the many things she shared, was that meditation. Go down that journey of gratitude. So every morning when I wake up, I literally go down a gratitude journey, call it prayer, whatever you want to call it. And, you know, Marina's mentioning, and literally I say thank you before I get out of bed every morning. Thank you for that cup of tea I'm going to have. Thank you for the people I'm going to engage with today. Thank you for this roof over my head. Thank you for the beautiful people in my life. And obviously, thank you for my health and well-being, because as many times it's been shared with health as wealth. You can't, two of the most important things we have in this world are time and health. Time flies by. We can't buy time back. So we make every moment count. Be kind to yourself. I love that, Marina. Be kind to yourself. We're too hard on ourselves, ladies and gentlemen. Learn to understand that when the pressure's up, take a back seat, take a breath, exhale, breathe in again, and feel that air entering into your lungs. Feel that connection. The other thing that I love sharing is a mind feed. Feed your mind, feed your brain. So many of us spend so much time on these wretched handheld gadgets that we all seem to carry around. And it is ridiculous. We are attached to Facebook, we're attached to Pinterest, Insta, whatever it might be. Kick the phone out, throw it away for an hour a day, and use that time to watch a TED talk, to read a book, listen to HIT talks, listen to something that can feed you, that can inspire you, that can transform your thinking and being. It takes practice, and everything takes time, and you have to dedicate yourself to this. Talk is cheap, as I shared earlier. So I know, as you said, Marina, you could continue talking for hours and ages, and we all could, and I know that. And I thank you so much for engaging with us on this early morning of yours. And I know your day started off on a very good footing. So may the week for you just be phenomenal. And again, thank you for all you do, along with all these other incredible people that have had the opportunity to share just 8 minutes of their past or experience, or something that has just triggered them to share with us this evening, this morning, this afternoon, wherever you are in the world. Moving on, in our last but not least, a gentleman who I met just over 3 years ago, and have had the opportunity to actually spend some very good quality time, although not so much socially, but on an academic front and a learning front. A gentleman by the name of Rob Scott, and for everyone's information, it's double B at the end, R-O-B-B. Rob is an international Scottish rugby player. So he's a gentleman who's played at the top of his league in sport. He now takes that experience and imparts this knowledge in the tools to inspire and to help other people take those steps to realize their own potential. And not so long ago, Rob very kindly gave me a lot of his time, and I'm eternally grateful for this, to really help me to try and understand little bits about who I am, some of the areas that I wasn't, maybe exploring, or finding out how I could push the boat a little bit extra, a little bit more potential, that sort of thing. And I had that privilege of engaging with Rob just over a week ago to run through an analysis that he had sort of structured, or he had put together for me, and he gave me a lot of time. And I thank you very much, Rob, for that, firstly. And I thank you very much that our paths have crossed. And by the by, we just had 2 mutual friends that we actually knew quite well, who both mutual friends actually wanted to introduce us. So this is definitely a calling. I'm now going to hand over to Rob Scott. And Rob, thank you very much for being with us this evening.
Good evening, good afternoon, good morning. I spent many years finding my talent and the influences around it. I was born in Hong Kong. I was brought up in the Far East from a Scottish family heritage with an English accent. Can someone help me understand how that happened? To share my vital statistics, not my personal ones, but my sporting ones. I'm 6'7", that's 2 meters in height, 125 kilos, 270 pounds. And don't be put off by the dashing good looks, so my modesty is still healthy. Most people assume these types of statistics are full of confidence, and they put you in a box of expectations. And this is one of the things I've been working through in understanding my talent. To give further context in my career, I've spanned different areas in international corporations across the world, in professional and international sport, and how I run my own business in human performance using people analytics in talent, well-being, happiness, self-awareness that enables us to validate and unleash performance. In short, I believe in people. It's all about people, whether it's business, sport, leisure, people interact, people deliver. So on that note, I'd like to do a second introduction to you that goes like this. I am the professional and international rugby player you never heard of, and I want to talk to you about my passion, which is talent. Everyone, I mean everyone, has a talent, and I'd like to share the reasons why I'm so passionate about this area and talent that comes alive. Part of my journey, if I may use sport, which is not necessarily everyone's cup of tea, but the principles go across life in many different ways. I was all the way there in professional and international sport. I got my big break in the Scotland Rugby Union international squad. I had delivered, but it then went wrong for me. I couldn't seem to get past players selected ahead of me for big games, and I allowed myself to accept this situation. I took things for granted, and I made up lots of excuses in my head. I was absolutely haunted for years with these searching unanswered questions. If only I had done this, or done that, or done something. However, the positives is that I did a lot of reflecting, and I realized there were key factors in my journey. I just wasn't self-aware of my talent, and I didn't really know what I was good at that set me apart. Since then, I've absolutely moved on. I know I'm stronger, I'm more focused, and I'm aware of my talent because I thought about it, I focused on it, I found out what I was good, but I had to have honest and hard conversations. But ultimately, knowing me and reintroducing myself to myself, I discovered the power of my talent, and I apply my talent every day, and I never allow what happened to me before affect my performance these days. So I feel like I've been talking about me, and I'd love to take the opportunity to actually talk about you and what makes you, you. So I'd actually like to pose 3 quick questions for you just to think about in your own mind. Question 1, what is your self-definition, or what's your definition of self-awareness? How would you describe that to yourself? Question 2, how do you become self-aware as a person, and how do you go about it? And question 3, what is your talent, and how would you answer that to yourself? Most people believe they're self-aware, but do you really know what your talent is? Now, we can back this up by studies on leadership and performance traits across 66 countries and 5 continents, and involving over 200,000 people with about 4.5 million data sets. So we've got the evidence, but when it breaks down and we come to it, what were the findings? And the real novel insight came out. Individuals are not aware of their talent. 95% of people can just tell you instantly 1 or 2 things that they do really well or they want to get better at. But actually, it's only 5% of people can tell you what they're good at. Surely, for all of us, this is just the wrong way round. In short, you know, what are you good at? I mean, what are you really, really good at? Knowing your talent just helps us perform better and consistently, and it reinforces positivity, confidence, and self-esteem. When I think about it, my career, whether it's business or with friends or it's in sport, one of my favorite quotes from all time, Frank Dick, an inspirational performance coach. There can be no limit to your performance. There is always something you can do better or differently, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. So why is this important to you, me, and everyone else? Talent discovery just helps you identify your something. Just imagine if we were in a job or in a role in a team or a sports team for 10 or 15 years and we just get stuck in a rut, not getting that promotion or that place in the team or the sports team because we don't know what we're good at. And because we're unaware of our talent and we just never fill that potential. Don't ever leave yourself with searching questions. I've been there and it is haunting. So when I reflect back and share with you some of the hurdles I went through, my biggest opponent and enemy during my professional and international sports career, without a shadow of a doubt, was actually myself. And this was because, again, I just was not aware of my talent. But these days, I do know my talent and I'm better, happier, and just so much more productive as a person. Talent discovery is just such an exciting place to be, being self-aware of your talent that just enables you to perform whatever that performance be. So if I take the wonderful, powerful, and exciting perspective of the 3 hit words that Vicky and Philip passionately talk about, hope is really knowing yourself by the power of your talent. Know what you're good at. Inspiration, knowing yourself to self-inspire, unleash your motivation, and feel good doing it. And transformation, that just enables us all to outperform ourselves. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your time. I love the world of passion, the world of talent. You have it, unleash it. Thank you.
Rob, thank you so much. I mean, sure, wonderful, wonderful words. And I just love that analogy, you know, in the words of what Michael Jordan pretty much said, that you will miss 100% of the shots you never take. And you've got to push yourself out there, everyone. You've got to make such an effort and dig deep to find out what your talents are and use them to your benefit. Because I know for a fact that when you find your talent and your calling and you put everything together, the world, you can conquer the world. You can make such a difference. And even if you just help one person in this world because you found your talent, you've done something amazing. And I know, Rob, you could offer us so much more insightful guidance and direction there, but 8 minutes flies past. And just the way you structured that is fantastic, because just seeing, you know, from all the speakers, these comments that are coming in, you know, it has been absolutely, truly wonderful. So I thank you again, to all 8 of my wonderful guests, and to, you know, Vicky for giving us this incredible opportunity, this platform to really connect and engage with as many people who wanted to join us this evening. These recordings will be watched over and over again by many, many people around the world. So just to round up from my point of view and my side is that, you know, I think really is for us to move forward with our lives is, you know, there's that analogy, if we keep looking in the rear view mirror, you're going to drive into something because you're not facing forward. That's number one. So look ahead, take your talent, you know, take that hope, take that inspiration, take those opportunities to transform. What's the worst that could possibly happen? What is the worst that could possibly happen? As long as you don't land up in prison or do something completely stupid, so what? You don't make it the first time, then you go again and you go again and you keep moving forward. So this for me is about 100% direction. And something that has helped me along the way many years ago was drawing up an action plan of things to start doing. So get a piece of A4 paper and draw a line down the center and a line in half, and put an action plan together of things to start, things to stop doing, things to try, and things to continue with. And really make an effort to literally write up that plan. Make an effort every day, every morning, or it could be at the end of the day, that you go through a little checklist of some of the things that you started and you go, yeah, baby, I started that. That's the first step in the right direction. And again, to stop doing certain things is obviously a lot harder because habits die hard. And again, you can just pat yourself on the back, be gentle with yourself. And I think a lot of us are very, very hard, and not to use words, I must, I have to, because those put you under a lot of pressure. I'm going to try. I'm going to make a difference. I'm going to put that foot forward. And, you know, I just want to finish off, if I may, Vicky, just sharing a lovely story about two mountaineers from the UK who took on the challenge to climb K2. And they were climbing up in very bad weather. One of the climbers had been a little bit injured on the way up. And in climbing, as you do, you rope yourself up to one another. And when you're climbing, you're making sure that your mate, the person who is your wing person, is absolutely, both of you are absolutely in tune with one another. And they're climbing up this very, 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 very dangerous sort of ridge. And unfortunately, the gentleman behind the head climber, he slipped and lost his footing, and he went careering down off the edge of the precipice. Now, his colleague, his partner, who is now obviously the anchor man, he swings around, and his crampons are catching the ice, and he's catching this rope, and he's holding on for dear life. Eventually, his crampons catch into the snow, and his friend is now dangling over this precipice. How many meters? Who knows? 20, 30 meters down. Now, in this situation, the anchorman does not have the strength to pull this person up on any level. The chap hanging at the end of the rope does not have the strength to pull himself up. And when it comes to climbing, there's an unwritten law and rule in climbing. You take out your knife and you cut the rope. And so this is exactly what the anchorman had to do. He had to take his knife out and he had to cut that rope. His friend went flying through midair, how many hundreds of meters, hitting the ice, hitting the snow, hitting the glacier, breaking bones, every bone in his body. And he goes rolling and tumbling into a crevasse. Now, for those of you who don't understand what a crevasse is a gap in the ice that breaks up open. Some of these crevasses are so deep, you could bury a yacht and you wouldn't see the mast sticking out the top. And he lands up dangling. Somewhere along the way, his rope gets caught, and he's now dangling in the middle of this crevasse, thinking, oh, my life's over. He's having to go to the loo in his clothing. He's got very little food for sustenance. He is hanging there like a crumpled sack of potatoes. His friend, meanwhile, as you can imagine what he's going through, he goes with a Sherpa, and they start to get down the mountain to get to base camp. The weather is horrendous. No helicopters can come in. This chap, now standing there dangling in this crevasse, starts to try and get his mind together, and he realizes from experience that a lot of crevasses have an exit. So he now takes his knife and he cuts his own rope, and he goes careering it down again into the abyss, into the dark, deep part of this crevasse. Boom! Smashing himself up again, lying now crumpled, buckled over, more bones broken. And now his brain is just all over the shop. He's all over the shop, his emotions, everything. And he realizes that, oh, my hat, I've got to get out of here. You know, we all have this in us, ladies and gentlemen, survival, survival. For any of you who thought of ever trying to, you know, take your life, put a plastic bag over your head and see if you can go through with it. You will not, you will pull. We have this innate ability to survive. Now, they set up at base camp, and this chap now realizes that he's got to get out of this crevasse, out of this bottom. And he realizes very early on that if he started to give himself these huge challenges, I've got to get out of here, I've got to get out of here, he would never have succeeded. So he gave himself little goals. He said, there's a little bit of ice there that I can see. And he would crawl over, he would roll, he would get there. And then he would self-congratulate himself. And all of a sudden, he gave himself another goal, and he would rest. Now, the base camp, again, weather too bad. On day 5, they're now thinking, crumbs, there's no way anyone can survive the minus degrees out there, the weather. There's no way. They started to pack up the base camp. And as they were packing up, they heard in the distance, help, help. And no word of a lie, this chap, his climbing partner, had managed to crawl himself by giving himself small little goals, small little incremental goals. And he rolled out, crawled out, and he made it to safety. So this is a book called K2, Summiting K2. It's a phenomenal read. The reason why I share the story with you is we all have it in us to be survivors. We all have it in us to make an absolute difference in this world. and we can do anything we put our minds to. So from me and my wonderful guests to this incredible audience, firstly, thank you very much for your time. Thank you for this beautiful sharing. And again, Vicky, over to you and thank you.
Thank you, Philip, for an absolute perfect ending to what a delightful evening. I absolutely love just sitting back and listening to all the guests with their hope, their inspiration and the transformation. And Philip, you have brought together an array of magical people and just sharing from their heart, sharing their wisdom and sharing their experiences. So an absolutely perfect ending to a Sunday or a start to a Monday morning, because I know that we have people from all over the world. And Hit Talks, for anyone that's new, please join us. We have so many exciting episodes coming on. If there's any of you that would like your own special edition, like Philip's got, perhaps, you never know. As we say, we're there when we open the doors, when we open the energetic doors of connection, then the energy and the love and the opportunities can just flow through. So we do have amazing episodes coming up. We have some exciting things coming up as well, because on the 8th of November, Philip is part of it as well, but I had another divine download. On the 8th of November, Hit Talks is doing an 8-hour live stream back-to-back, 48 speakers speaking for 8 minutes each for 8 hours, from 8 p.m. UK to 4 a.m. UK time. Obviously, a divine download again, and I was like, seriously? 8 hours back to back? But it is going to be absolutely magical. And we have an episode of Hit Talks coming up on the 17th of October. So please join us. Reach out to me, reach out to my team, reach out to Philip if you have any questions, if there's any way we can serve you with hope, inspiration, and transformation. And honestly, from me, Vicky Thomas, your founder and your host, from the bottom of my heart, I thank everybody here live. I thank everybody watching the replay, and I send you so much love and so much blessings.